Top Shelf.
Hello and welcome to Top Shelf Board Games. I'm Hubba.
I'm Sabrina.
And today we're reviewing Patchwork. In Patchwork, you'll be collecting buttons and using these buttons to buy pieces that you'll place onto your player board to make a quilt. And each piece that you buy is going to cost a certain amount of buttons, and it's also going to cost you a certain amount of time to build. So you'll be balancing this. You'll be balancing the idea of what pieces to buy for the cost of how much they cost versus the time that it's going to cost you to put that piece onto your board. Your turns are not back and forth. Your turns are determined by where your pawn is at on the time board. So if you're behind, you'll continue to take actions, either buying and putting pieces onto the board or just advancing your piece until your pawn is ahead of your opponent's.
And when you advance, you get buttons. So it's like Tetris. The little pieces you're buying are like Tetris size or shaped, but you're trying to make the most strategic quilt with the less amount of spaces.
So what she's trying to say is you got these Tetris pieces. They look like Tetris pieces, and you're putting them onto your board, and you're trying to cover as much of that board as you can. At the end of the game, every space that's not covered by one of these patches will cost you 2 points at the end of the game. You'll be trying to amass the most amount of buttons that you can acquire, and you'll subtract the points for open spaces on your board, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game is going to be your winner. This game is a very quick game. It plays well with 2 players. Mm-hmm. Normally when I see a box like this that has, I don't know if you can see it up there on the shelf, but normally when I see a box that's for 2 players only, I usually am pretty turned off by it. I usually go right past those games on the shelf. Even though that's a majority of what we play is 2-player games, I don't know, there's just something about when I see a box that says for 2 players, I just walk by it. Patchwork, though, is a really solid 2-player game.
I know, and it made our number 1 in our top 10 go-to couple games, which I can see why. So I actually really enjoy this game. So it's one that I'll probably go to anytime we want to play something quick, because it is quick, but you're also very competitive. Not only yourself, but you are competing against your partner. It's
really an economic game, is really what it comes down to. It's an economic area placement type of game. Whoever can best manage the spending of their buttons versus the time that they spend building those patches is going to be able to do the best in this game. You also not only want to balance that, but you also want to balance the idea of purchasing lots of different tiles so you can cover the maximum amount of space on your board.
But you also want to make sure you get the buttons, though, because if you don't have enough buttons, you can't buy the pieces either. So
right.
There's a lot of, you have to make sure you get the buttons, but you have to make sure you get the big pieces or the pieces that are going to fit the best, and your time, because if you move forward, then you can't buy anymore. So there's a lot to it, actually.
A lot of times, because every piece is a very different shape. And so as you put them on there, you're going to have all these different shapes to choose from, and being able to, if you have very high visual dexterity, you will do really well at this game. If you're able to look at a piece or look at a blank space and look at a piece, separate from that blank space, and are able to twist it around in your mind, and you can see how pieces are going to fit. If you're good with that type of thing, you will have an advantage in this game.
Mm-hmm. But I really like, though, when you're moving that pawn around, that you only have 3 choices.
Yeah.
You can't just choose all of them, so you do have to make do with what you have too. Or you make sure that the partner or your player or opponent doesn't move his pawn where you can't get the piece you really want. So.
Yeah, and then that goes into some of the strategy too. And there's with this game having a digital version, the digital version is a very competitive way to play this game. That's initially where I started playing Patchwork, was on there. I suck, so I lost a lot. But it's very competitive. There's a lot of subtle strategies to use to be good at this game.
Well, because you want to make sure you get the single patch. Sometimes you really need that single patch, so you got to make sure you get it before your opponent. So you have to make sure you get a certain amount of time.
What are your final thoughts on this game?
I'm really glad that we finally purchased it. It took a while to convince him, but I'm really glad that he did, and I really do like this game.
Yeah, it's a really solid game. I enjoy it a lot. It falls in that line of 2-player games, kind of like Lost Cities, where it's easy to play. It's casual, but there's a lot of good choices to make in the game. There's a lot of choices aren't super difficult, but there's good choices. And then having that visual dexterity, I really enjoy.
I kind of wish it might have been a little more than 2 players, because then that would just add more strategy to it, because you have multiple people buying different patterns and stuff. So.
It could be. I really like it the way it is with 2, and highly recommend it.
Let us know what you think of it.
Put it in the comments, like us on Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.